I suggest you lower your gun.
Every rule followed by the High Table and the Continental. In the dark and violent world of John Wick, the High Table is like the ultimate form of governance. It monitors the underworld across the globe, and the organization seems to have a command over all local governments and the entire assassin community. The Continental Hotel is one of its major tools and allows it to function swiftly. There are various Continental branches around the world, and their managers are the judge, jury, and executioner of the orders of the High Table. In this elaborate management system, there exist some ancient rules and practices that are followed strictly. In this video, we will explore every single rule that is followed by the High Table and the Continental Hotels, because without rules, we live with the animals. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
125 grain, 1425 feet per second.
What is the true capacity of the Continental Hotel and its manager? There is usually a disguised form of most of the high table operations, and the Continental Hotel is the greatest of them all. It hides in plain sight and serves as one of the most efficient tools of the high table to conduct its business. While this may be a fancy hotel, there is a secret side to these hotels where assassins and other members of the organization get special access. There are several Continental hotels across the world, and although we have majorly seen Continental New York in the movies, the Osaka Continental in Tokyo plays a key role in the recent release John Wick Chapter 4. These hotels serve as neutral grounds for the assassins, a place of diplomacy where business can be discussed, save violation of the hotel policies results in some form of severe punishment. It can be a death sentence from the high table, or the person can be declared excommunicado, wherein he or she can no longer avail the facilities of any Continental hotel across the world.
Best way forward.
There won't be anything protracted about it.
Oh, you can take the Continental, I've no doubt about that, but keeping it, that's a different matter entirely.
What happens if the managers violate the rules? The managers of the Continental hotels might have a lot of power, but they are not above the rules. The High Table maintains that their rules are for everyone, no matter the hierarchy or the rank, and even the managers come under this purview. If you have watched the John Wick movies, you already know about the consequences that await them if they fail to obey. As punishment for their failure, they are asked to step down from their position, and in some cases, even the hotel is deconsecrated, which means that it loses the neutral ground status. Once the Continental Hotel is deconsecrated, it is basically the High Table signing the death warrant of the manager, because they can now send in their mercenaries to clean up their rogue employees. After Winston helped John escape following his killing of Santino on Continental grounds, the High Table sent in the adjudicator to bring him the message that he was required to step down. His defiance brought an entire army of assassins at the doorsteps of the Continental New York, and Winston was able to fend off the attack courtesy of his trusted concierge Sharon and John Wick. Something similar happened to Koji, the manager of Osaka Continental, and his hotel was deconsecrated and attacked for sheltering John while he was excommunicado. Koji was assassinated for his disobedience, and the Continental Hotel in New York was destroyed for Winston's dissent.
This is your blood. Your bond.
The marker must be honored. According to the words of Winston, this rule is just as important as no violent business on Continental grounds. A marker is a blood oath, which is agreed upon by two parties. It is usually after one party performs an incredibly life-saving or life-altering favor to the other party by going out of their way or endangering their own life in the process. The other party then owes the favor and signs the blood oath, which is shaped like a medallion. This needs to be repaid at all costs, and the marker has to be honored at all costs. Sometimes, the party can demand the most impossible and outrageous things. This is one of the rules explored in John Wick Chapter 4, and the law dates back to ancient times. According to the old ways of the High Table, one member has the right to challenge another to a duel, which would settle the disputes between them. Troubled by Marquis Vincent de Gramont, a high-ranking member of the High Table, and his horde of assassins, Winston advises John to make use of this ancient rule to settle the issue once and for all. However, there is a catch here. For someone to challenge a member of the High Table Council, they must be a member of an affiliated crime family. This makes John seek out his ancient roots in the Ruska-Roma crime family in Germany, and his adoptive sister marks him with a family crest, making his dueling challenge legitimate. This duel is conducted by authorized personnel of the High Table, and both individuals are given similar weapons to fight in a battle that continues till one person is dead. The one challenged can appoint someone else in his stead, but the fate of the battle will determine his consequence. The time and place of the duel are predetermined, and failing to reach the venue on time can result in the execution of the participant. There can also be seconds in the duel, which is basically someone to stand in support. This person also meets with the same fate as his fighter. In this case, Vincent de Gramoth appointed Kane to fight for him, but once he took over in the battle, there was no stopping John from shooting his brains out. Winston was John's second, and he won back his charge at the Continental Hotel after John's victory. The gold coin in the underworld is the greatest cryptocurrency. The unique gold coins work as currency in the world of gangsters and assassins, and most facilities and resources of the underworld can be availed by using these coins. The outside. In the recent release, the blind assassin Kane is another individual who managed to get out of this system. He served the High Table long and strong before retiring, and we can assume the impossible tasks that he had to accomplish in order to be freed. Unfortunately, the safety of his daughter was threatened, and he was forcibly brought back, much like how Santino's marker forced John Wick out of retirement.
Let's go.
A strong code of honor among the assassins. This may be an unwritten rule, but the code of honor among the assassins can be observed among all the great fighters. In many of John Wick's fights, he spares the other person if he or she is keen to surrender. The Bowery King is a great example of John's merciful nature, and it extends to other assassins as well. The blind assassin Kane in the recent release is also not too keen on unnecessary manslaughter and abides by a code of honor. He doesn't kill John when the latter is caught up in someone else's unfair fight and schemes, and even helps the hitman fight off the notorious killer played by Scott Adkins. The assassins work on mutual respect, which can be observed from the way their fights pan out. In John Wick Chapter 3, the titular protagonist faces off against two deadly opponents who are accomplices of the famed assassin Zero, and they both pay their respects to John, suggesting that it is a great honor to be able to fight him. It is the same when Santino's sister's bodyguard loses the fight with John Wick, or Zero meets with a similar fate. Besides this code of conduct and mutual respect, the best assassins do not surrender, and they treat death to be more honorable than giving up. In fact, this concept of honor also extends beyond the assassin world and is applicable to other professions involved in the underworld. For instance, Aurelio in the first movie doesn't dismantle and repaint John Wick's car because it was unethical practice. Some lesser-known assassins also seem to have the decency to attack John in all fairness. This unspoken code of honor actually helps the viewer determine who the real bad guys are. The likes of Santino and Vincent de Gramoth were not honorable men, and their death is celebrated as great victories for John Wick instead of some others where he kills a respectable assassin.
Is that the dog? He likes you.
Don't hurt a dog, the biggest rule of them all. There might be a long list of rules and regulations followed by the High Table and Continental hotels around the world, but there is none more serious than this one. If there's one thing that we have learned from the 4 John Wick movies so far, it is the importance of keeping the dogs safe. All hell breaks loose when the dogs are hurt, and it started with a cruel killing of John Wick's puppy and extended to Sophia's dog being shot on his bulletproof vest. Even in the recent release John Wick Chapter 4, the mysterious assassin Mr. Nobody is extremely touchy about his dog and loses his mind when someone tries to hurt his pet. Even John continues to have a soft spot for the canine friends, and we're speaking from experience when we say that this rule deserves to be the unwritten and unspoken rule number 1. It might sound ironic that an organization that basically regulates crime across the world has a strict code of conduct and rules to be followed. However, without these systems in place, there would be absolute chaos and anarchy. The rules are what add a level of accountability to the system, and it was a great idea by the makers of the franchise to introduce them as the laws of the land that even the titular protagonist must live by. Do let us know in the comments below about your thoughts on these rigid rules and practices that are enforced by the High Table. Which ones among these do you think are more flexible than the others? Share us your thoughts in the comments below.
Do I need to remind you that there will be no business conducted on the Continental grounds?